So, among the beautiful gift from God that was NBA Twitter last Tuesday, one constant thing that came up was Doc Rivers is now officially exposed as a head coach. And it got me thinking because I saw all the arguments in the Twitter threads about the lack of context and all that stuff. Does Doc Rivers really deserve the blame for all of his blown playoff leads as a head coach? Let's review them and find out. Yo! What's up, guys? It's John, aka Data Mike, and I am back from vacation. We're back in the upload grind, so make sure to leave a like and subscribe because, unlike your favorite TV analyst, we're all about objectivity over here. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this video going. 2003 Eastern Conference First Round, the Orlando Magic versus the Detroit Pistons. So I'm pretty sure that most people know about this series from Tracy McGrady's famous quote, but for those who don't know, Doc Rivers was the head coach of an 8th-seeded Orlando Magic team that had a 3-1 series lead over the top-seeded Detroit Pistons. This was still early in his coaching career as this was his 4th year in the league, and he had back-to-back first-round exits to show for it. But this year, he came really close to putting his first major stamp on his coaching resume against the Pistons squad, which had tallied 50 wins for the second straight year. And the Magic were doing it on the defensive end too. In the first 4 games of the series, they had held the Pistons to 94 points, 89 points, 80 points, and 92 points. Then McGrady says famous quote, and all hell broke loose. Game 5, the Magic allowed 98 points. Game 6, 103 points, and Game 7, 108 points. Now here's the question of the video, and obviously this will be the theme of the video as well. Was this Doc Rivers' fault? Well, the Magic were missing Grant Hill and Mike Miller, 2 of their leading scorers who combined to average 30.9 points per game. And McGrady had 19 points on 8 of 20 shooting in Game 5, and 21 points on 7 of 24 shooting in Game 7. He did explode for 37 points in Game 6, but the Magic as a team scored 88, meaning he accounted for 42% of their offense. And also, I don't know how many people know this, but did y'all know that Chauncey Billups had 40 points and 7 threes in Game 6 and 37 points in Game 7 for the Pistons? Jesus Christ, this man was a baller. But yeah, when you combine that with the fact that the Magic are missing 2 of their best players, Gordon Garicek did not perform up to par. He only averaged 9 points per game in this series, which meant that the bulk of the offensive scoring load fell on McGrady and Drew Gooden, and Rivers was still young in terms of coaching. He was 41 years old at the time. My verdict is that this was not Doc Rivers' fault. 2009 Eastern Conference Semifinals, Boston Celtics versus the Orlando Magic. Alright, since more people should remember this, especially if you've been watching the NBA since the mid to late 2000s, I'm just going to come out and say that this was definitely Doc Rivers' fault. But let me provide the context first. The Boston Celtics were coming off an NBA championship the year before and finished this season as a number 2 seed in the East with 62 wins. They were supposed to challenge the Cleveland Cavaliers for Eastern Conference supremacy to determine who would face the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals. This was Doc Rivers' 10th year as an NBA head coach, and I don't know if he just had the team coasting through the regular season or if Kevin Garnett's season-ending knee injury mentally affected the team that badly, but they did not come into that postseason ready to play. The Celtics went the distance with the 7th-seed Chicago Bulls. Yes, I know it's considered one of the most competitive playoff series of all time because 6 of those 7 games were decided by a single possession, but the Celtics were hands down one of the best teams in the NBA all season long, so if anything, this still looks bad on them. And because they went the full 7 games with the Bulls, they only had 1 day off between Game 7 and Game 1 of the second round with the Magic, which is probably why they lost Game 1, but that's not the point. The Celtics were up 3-2 in this series and won back-to-back close games. They won Game 4 by 1 point and Game 5 by 4 points. Now yes, Game 6 was in Orlando, and home court advantage does have an effect, as most likely part of the reason why the Magic were able to force a Game 7. But for the Celtics fans shouting at me through the screen, "We didn't have KG." Stop. Just stop. Your entire starting lineup averaged double figures this series. Paul Pierce, 18.9 points per game. Rajon Rondo, 14.3 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 8 assists. Glenn Davis, 13.4 points per game. Ray Allen, 13.1 points per game, although he did shoot 19% from 3. Yikes. Wait, Ray Allen shot 8 of 42 from 3 in this series? Who kidnapped the real Ray Allen and replaced him with an imposter? Anyway, not only did Kendrick Perkins also average a double-double of 10 points and 11 rebounds, but he was supposed to be the Celtics' defensive anchor like he had been throughout the season. Yet he allowed Dwight Howard to not only average 16 points and 17 rebounds in this series alone, he allowed him to score 23 points and grab 22 rebounds in Game 6. But moving on, the Celtics would not only go on to lose Game 6, but they get embarrassed in Game 7 in front of their home fans. I'm sorry, but if you lose by 19 points in Game 7 on your home court, that falls on everyone, including the coaching. So yeah, like I said, still Doc Rivers' fault. 2010 NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, this was basically the same scenario as the previous year. The Celtics won games 4 and 5 in close fashion to go up 3-2 with a chance to win the series on the road. This time, there were no excuses. The Celtics were fully 100% healthy, and this was the NBA Finals. But the Celtics got absolutely mollywopped by 22 points in Game 6 and lost Game 7 despite leading for the majority of the first half and as many as 13 points in the second half. Now, if you look at one of the primary reasons as to why the Celtics blew this series, it was definitely their lack of bench production. In Game 6, the starters combined for 54 of their 67 points, and in Game 7, 73 of their 79 points. But even still, the Celtics were in prime position to win this series. They had 2 opportunities, and it's up to the coach to make sure his squad is ready to withstand huge rallies in a hostile environment in like Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So I'm sorry, Doc, but this is still your fault, man. 2012 Eastern Conference Finals, the Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat. Okay, now we're getting into more recent territory. Now look, I'm gonna be honest, this is a toss-up, because we all know what happened. Paul Pierce hit the shot in Game 5 to put the Celtics up 3-2 with a chance to win the series on their home court for once. Then LeBron not only had the greatest game of his career, but one of the greatest performances of all time. But in Game 7, again, the Celtics blow a double-digit lead. Jeez, Doc Rivers sure has a habit of blowing double-digit leads in Game 7s, does he? They had an 11-point lead in the first half of Game 7 and were tied with the Heat going into the fourth quarter as well. It's a tied game where anything can happen. You still have a chance to win the series and go back to the NBA Finals for the 3rd time in 5 years. Only scored 15 points with 2 major scoring droughts in the fourth quarter. One stretch of 2.5 minutes and another stretch of 5 minutes. But despite this, I'm not putting the blame on Doc Rivers actually. Like I said, LeBron had the greatest game of his career. The Celtics went ice cold and unraveled in Game 7. And LeBron, Wade, and Bosh scored all of the Heat's 28 points in that fourth quarter as well. And when you factor in all the narratives of, the big 3 Heat and everything else, I'm not really going to get into it because that'll make this video way too long. The odds were stacked against the Celtics in the first place, and they were fortunate to be in this position anyway. Finally, I'm combining the 2015 and 2020 conference semifinals with the Clippers and blaming both on Doc. I'm sorry, Doc, but you deserve just as much of the blame as the players do for blowing both of these series. You were up 3-1 in both scenarios, including had the better team. So to sum it up, Doc Rivers is to blame for 4 out of the 6 scenarios of his team blowing a 3-1 or 3-2 series lead. So yeah, that's it.